Alright, well, haven't even hardly looked into this either. I'm just gonna wing this one and research a little bit as I'm going on. So, the original guy that drives Herbie in the Herbie movies died yesterday on September 1st at the age of 84. Now, this just interested me because I made a video. Actually, I made this video on April 9th, 4/9, and it's even funnier. I talk about the number 55 in this movie a whole bunch. Or the second movie, or not the second, there's a ton of movies, but the second movie I talked about in this video had a lot of 55, and I noticed my video was even 55 minutes. Just strange, but anyway, I went back and I just rewatched this. It's not even, I know a ton more than I did at the time. It wasn't even that long ago, but it reminded me so much of that. So I just re-looked up a few things. So this was the original Love Bug movie, and I talked about love because it was all about Lupercalia and Valentine's Day, and it was the Love Bug. The number 35 and 53 is all about this because Herbie was number 53. But anyway, this is the very first movie, and look when it came out. March 13th, 1969. So that is literally exactly 44 years before Pope Francis became the Pope. And I've been talking about this number, the 133 or the 313. Recently it's been popping up a lot for me. But anyway, it's also based in the San Francisco Bay. But anyway, like I said, I didn't do a whole bunch of research into this again, but found it interesting that I had already talked about it. And I really want to talk about this movie. It was called Herbie Fully Loaded. And the reason that it was called Fully Loaded is because it had a lot of foreshadowing of stuff in the movie. And that's, yeah, I mean, even it says it grossed over 144 million. We've been talking about that number a whole bunch. Especially since the first one came out 44 years before Pope Francis became Pope. Obama's the 44th president. Man, I talked about like Heath Ledger and Michael Keaton as her dad. So it was Batman and the Joker. Or he was Batman, and it reminded me of Heath Ledger, and Heath Ledger died on 4/4. Sorry. But yeah. I wanted to show, also down here it shows you the 144, but it says 144.1. So it's literally the mirror, 144 and 144 backwards even. But in this movie, in the very beginning of this movie, and sorry for even making it about Batman, let me pull up the pictures here. They show this image right here. Lindsay Lohan is like, oh, Grandpa was awesome or something. And she doesn't know her dad's watching her. She's looking at this on their wall. But if you look at the date, it's really, really hard to see. I wish I could find a better copy of the movie. This is the best quality I could find. I zoomed in. But it says Sunday, and it's September for sure, and then 1964. And that looks like 30, but it might be 20. I looked up the days in 1964, and September 20th and September 27th would be a Sunday. So it has to be one of them days, unless they just completely messed up the date and it's not a real day or whatever. It really looks like Sunday, September 30, 1964. But just thought it was interesting that it was in like September, whatever. It might even, and then I looked up the Sunday, and it, like September 27th, the day Pope Francis will be in Philadelphia this year. And then also you have the blood moon that's coming like that night or whatever, going into the 28th. But right after this, she turns around and her dad starts talking to her, and he tells her she's going to get a car tomorrow. He's going to buy her a car. And she's wearing this shirt. It even says San Francisco right here. Once again, hard to see, but I'll show you a closer picture of it. It's the Golden Gate Bridge. And then in my original video, I talked about how that was the sun, and they were just foreshadowing the Golden Gate Bridge. But now I actually see what it is. It's the blood moon. and it's the Golden Gate Bridge. How ridiculous is that? And just for a reference, here's some pictures of the blood moons. I'll just pull up this picture really quick. It's totally a blood moon by the San Francisco, or the Golden Gate Bridge. So, really, really interesting. Pope Francis is even named after St. Francis of Assisi, who San Francisco was also named after. Crazy. And then even, like I said, I can't tell what the actual day is, but September 27th is a Sunday in 1964, so it might say that. It's just really hard to make out, but interesting that it says in the Americas, the eclipse will begin on the evening of September 27th, 2015. So interesting. That would be the last blood moon of the tetrad or whatever. Also, I've been talking a lot about this day, September 13th, or 9/13, or the 13-9-139, in my last couple videos, dealing with Kanye West and Taylor Swift and all kinds of stuff, but I realized there was a partial solar eclipse that day as well, so thought that was kind of interesting. And this one even says, at the maximum point, the altitude is 1.06, like the 106 that's been popping up like crazy with pretty much everything, all stemming back to Philadelphia and the Philadelphia train wreck and whatnot. So I've covered it more than enough. I'm not going to keep talking about it. Anyway, the September 28th, 27 one, it says the time in Omaha will be 7:11 p.m. on September 27th, which I live like probably 50 minutes away from Omaha, so that's why it's interesting to me. And also, I've been hearing so much news lately about the Nebraska Cornhuskers. There's been a lot in the news about them. Maybe it's just local. It seems like it's not. I found it on ESPN.com. But I hear it on the radio on the way to work and whatnot. Their announcer got hired, then fired. The new coach, is getting sued for a rape thing that happened with his football players back in the late 90s. And then you even had like Lawrence Phillips, who just murdered a guy in jail supposedly. So I just thought it was interesting. The 7-11, which is half scary, because it's like 9/11. There always seems to be a 7-11 coded around these big hoaxes and whatever they do. So September 27th, the last day that Pope Francis will be in the United States. 7-11 Omaha. But the interesting thing about Omaha is because the Nebraska Cornhuskers are actually from Lincoln, which is really, it's only like an hour away from Omaha, but they're from Lincoln. I talked about the Teen Wolf references back around Valentine's Day with Lupercalia, and they're doing a Space Jam, and then they have Back to the Future with Michael J. Fox. But the Nebraska Cornhuskers mascot is Herbie Husker. Not only is it Herbie, and then you have the Herbie guy die. It's Herbie Husker, the HH, the 88. The 88th day is 329. It's the mirror of 923 even. So I just want to talk about that a little bit. What are the odds? Like I even talked about the Hurricane Fred, or Erica, then Fred, how it all ties in with Freddie Gray. They totally do this. They use code words, and so that is exactly why this Herbie guy died. And then all these stories about Nebraska Cornhuskers. Because Herbie is the mascot. So I just want to start off by showing Herbie Husker. Here's a picture of Herbie Husker, the mascot. It says he was created by Lubbock, Texas artist Dirk West. That's really interesting because when I've mentioned Space Jam and the false alien invasion or whatever they might be doing on 9/23 or something, or around these blood moons, Lubbock, Texas is famous for the Lubbock Lights. Just want to show you here, it's a series of sightings received national publicity and is regarded as one of the first great UFO cases from August of 1951. Also, I forgot to mention in Teen Wolf, when they show all the Lincoln stuff, the Nebraska Cornhusker stuff, for absolutely no reason, because the movie doesn't take place in Lincoln, Nebraska. And then when he becomes the wolf, he joins the play, and the play's about the Civil War and they've been running the Civil War theme like crazy in the news. Straight Outta Compton. Don't you find it weird that Straight Outta Compton it literally was in the making from 2009, and then it just so happens to come out in 2015 when like all this race war stuff is going on and whatnot. I mean, perfect timing, right? You don't think they pre-planned that? No way. Anyway, so their announcer was fired, but look at one day ago is from these articles or whatever. But look what it says: Nebraska PA announcer fired. That's PA is the abbreviation for Pennsylvania. That is where Pope Francis is going to go. That's where he's going to finish his tour in the United States. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I guarantee that's why they fired this guy, the Nebraska PA announcer. So this guy, they announced his being hired, and then the next day he got fired because of a Facebook comment, whatever. But he's also the third PA announcer since August 6th. So this guy, the original one, the longtime one, Patrick Combs, got fired after suspicion of bilking hundreds of thousands of dollars from two elderly women. And then this guy got hired or announced, and then he got fired. And then now they have, this guy, a Grindle guy, that's going to do it. So interesting, they're making a big deal out of the PA announcer. And let's see here. Well, actually, I want to talk about this really quick, and then I'll tell you. So the only reason that guy even got hired and then fired is because of this guy, Patrick Combs. And I tried looking him up on Wikipedia, but you can only find literally one Pat Combs, and it's not him. But it's just kind of funny that the one I find was a major league pitcher who played for the Philadelphia Phillies between 1989 and 1992. And he will be 49 years old this year even. Even shows that he attended Hastings High School. Now that comes up again in a little bit, so just thought Hastings is a town in Nebraska as well. So I thought that was kind of strange. I mean, it doesn't really have to mean anything, but just pretty weird that the only guy you could find is a Philadelphia Philly, or was. But the thing is, Nebraska, they have other ties to Pennsylvania. You remember when Jerry Sandusky got in trouble for the molestation? I actually made a couple videos about that as well. But after he got fired and they were on like their, whatever it is in college, their bye week, Nebraska was the first team to play Penn State after this whole scandal broke out. So here's the 2011 season. It talks about the Penn State sex abuse scandal. Just want to show you that. Let's scroll down here and show you the games. So they had a game October 29th, and then they didn't play again until November 12th, which is an interesting day because there's 49 days left until the end of the year. They played Nebraska. We'll even scroll down here and look at the actual game. This was the first Nittany Lions game not coached by Joe Paterno in 46 years due to his firing over the Jerry Sandusky whatever. So, and the reason I say it's significant is because it was made a huge deal. I can't even remember it all. I remember I used to be a huge sports fan. We hate Nebraska because around here you either hate Nebraska or you love them. And I always went to Nebraska hate parties. But they made a huge deal out of this game. Like, they thought there was going to be riots and whatnot. And Penn State's a huge Catholic place. They even prayed at the game and whatnot. So that's why it's really significant. I need to go back and pull up some articles or something. But it was a huge game. It was made a huge big deal. Even more interesting is that Penn State plays at Beaver Stadium. That's what their stadium's called. And then Nebraska just hired the new coach, and then now the new coach is getting sued because of a rape thing, It's about Beaver. But even better, he used to coach Oregon State, and Oregon State's nickname is the Beavers. So I'll pull all that up. I'm running out of time, and I don't know how to combine these videos anymore with this new computer. So I'm just going to actually make a part 2, because there's a lot more information that I need to talk about, and I won't have enough time. So, see ya in part 2.